No,
That's the G.
hello, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, and I'm joined by Geoff Klafter of the Happily Ever Klafter Daily Sports Blog. And you know who this is, Tony Crowe of Knicks and Bruises. How you fellas doing?
Peace, Queen. Happy to be back. Happy to be off a win.
Yeah, after a
Yeah,
win
for
like
sure.
that,
We're
I'm
going to
doing
talk about
great.
that. Yeah. The Knicks were 2-2 since we last met, with losses to Detroit and Minnesota, overtime win against Philadelphia, and a quality win, in my opinion, tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. We are 28-16 on the season, in third place in the Eastern Conference, just 4-6 over our last 10. Karl Anthony Towns returned tonight after a 2-game absence. We were 1-1 without him. He didn't look 100%. But whether he was a decoy or not, I don't know if you could be a decoy and shoot 18 shots, but if he was a decoy, we needed it. Just his presence and his gravity and what he does for us really helps. This was one of his most inefficient games, but I don't think it matters, again, because of just how dynamic our offense is when he's in there. So we're going to talk about, obviously, our offense overall, as we usually do, or our defense over the offense and defense over the past week, and overall, as we usually do. We're going to talk about the bench tonight, as well. But let's start with this game. What stood out for you? I guess each of us will pick one thing that stood out, and we'll go round robin. If somebody takes if somebody takes what you were going to say, you could just piggyback off of it and then go to your second point. Geoff, give me one thing that stood out for you tonight.
Mikal Bridges. We finally made them pay for Trae Young not being able to play a lick of defense. Like, Mikal was in his bag tonight after missing his first 3 shots. I think he went like 12 of 14 or something crazy like that from the field. And he was, on both ends of the floor. He was a maestro defensively, forcing that 24-second violation of Trae Young. Maybe my favorite play of the season. I just loved it. But offensively, especially his start the third quarter, he was in attack mode, and it was like he cut an 8-point lead down to 1 in like a blink of an eye, and then that just seemed to propel us and get us going. So hats off to Mikal, and he just we need more games from him like that.
Go ahead, Tony. I see you chomping
you can respond, because I want to double down or triple down on it. So, because I know that's, that's one of your points as well.
Yeah, no, go ahead, do it.
But I'm just saying, like, this is probably his best overall performance. Just to add to Geoff, this is probably his best overall performance in a single game, offensively, defensively, as a Knick. And if he played like this for half the game so far, I don't think anyone would ever have these questions about who he is, why we got him, what we gave up, da-da-da-da-da. So that's the only thing I would add. This was the Bridges that we were expecting and looking for when we made this move. And yeah, to find a mismatch and take advantage. I think not just for him, but as a team, that could be our biggest strength overall. If we could seek out individual mismatches throughout the game by everybody, especially Mikal down there at his size.
Yeah, I think what I would add to this is when I see Mikal Bridges have performances like this is what's possible for the Knicks. You know, like it just gives you a glimpse into what's possible for the Knicks and a glimpse into his upside, his ceiling. I don't think, you know, as much as he's played in Phoenix, as much as he was the number one guy in Brooklyn for that year and a half, I still don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. And this game just gave us a glimpse of when he gets it together and when this team really starts rolling, what you can get from Mikal Bridges. And just to double down on your point, Geoff, to finally see the Knicks take advantage of the mismatch, and you know, Bridges in the post. It was great to see. And I think as you play these harder teams or teams that are a hard matchup for you, even if they're not a hard team overall, you got to be precise. You know, you can't leave any meat on the bone, as I like to say. If there's a place where you have an advantage, you need to go and you need to take advantage of it. You can't just leave that possibility there, because to beat that team, whoever it is, whether it's Atlanta or KC or whatever it is, you're gonna need every advantage you can get. And I thought the Knicks um did well with that tonight. Tony, okay, you want to say something else?
I was just gonna say on any given night we should have two advantages on the court. You know what I mean? And they could change. It might be Mikal, it might be Brunson, it might be Towns. You know what I mean? It could be OG. So we got to take advantage of them and find them individually, seek them out.
Yeah, for sure. Tony, give us something else on the list that stood out for you.
Well, the bench minutes, the distribution of the bench minutes. Um, all those guys play over 9 minutes. You know what I mean? All those guys had an impact and kind of stepped into their role. Like usually it's one guy off the bench that has the game for the night, and you know we needed more from everybody. But tonight, you know, it was they shared the wealth. And to your point, Queen, you mentioned it on my show. It seemed like they were finding themselves as a unit. That you know what I mean? So that was good. And you know, obviously you gotta give Tibbs his credit because he's the guy that made that decision. I know that's what the fans have been crying for.
Yeah. I mean, what I will add, and I've gone back and forth with this, and even since the show, even since your show, what, less than an hour ago, it's kind of evolved a bit more. And I know on your show, I was saying, you know, you get more minutes, you know, you got to do something with those minutes, you know, otherwise they do go down. But I think I'm at a place now, and this can change, where I'm like, the bench needs minutes, and you just got to live and die with it. You just got to live and die with it. You lose a game, it's okay to say, listen, we needed more bench support. We
Mhm.
just didn't get it. But there's minutes that they play. Like Tony said, you know, if your bench can get 50 minutes at least, or 50 plus minutes, like that should be the cutoff,
Standard.
the standard, and you just live and die with it. They don't play well, you lose. They play well, you win. Because over the long term, one, you get an opportunity to grow your bench. And I think if you're not going to make any significant moves, then you really need to grow the bench that you have. And two, they need to have that opportunity excuse me, to decrease the load on the starters, right? Decrease the load on the starters. Um, Yeah, yeah. Anything else about the bench, Geoff? Or
Well,
Tony, you wanted to
I just
piggyback?
want to
Deuce.
say it grows their experience as well with the time. So the chemistry, you find gems in mixed lineups. You know what I mean? Like, oh, because he got these minutes, let me see what he looks like with this lineup. You know what I mean? With this combination. So you get to see a whole lot more. And again, there's always been validity to the fans and them wanting, you know, players to play less minutes and other players to play more. I think a lot of people just went overboard with the firing of Tibbs and that nature. So I think there was a medium.
Yeah, we kind of needed your calm presence last Thursday when we were doing the midseason review, talking about Tom Thibodeau. I got a little hot. I got a little hot that show. But Geoff, you wanted to add something about the bench?
Well, Tony made this point off the air, so I want to make sure he gets full credit for it. Was this a case of necessity is the mother of invention? Because Brunson had 2 fouls, Cat had 2 fouls, Deuce had 4 fouls, Hart had 2 fouls. So everybody had foul trouble, and so it was it right. That Tibbs had an epiphany, or was it just like the foul situation kind of dictated that those players had to rest or sit, and then what you saw was excellent defensive effort from the bench unit. I thought that their defense really sparked us back into the lead. And so, even though there wasn't really, I mean, Cam Payne did a terrific job. I think he scored for us, but for the most part, they still struggled to score. I don't think Deuce had a great shooting game, or at least it didn't. I didn't look at the numbers, but it felt like he missed a lot of open looks. But at the same time, I don't care. He's shooting, and what he's doing defensively really kind of set the tone. And it was actually when the starters came back in that second quarter that it got kind of capsized again. But then in the third quarter, as opposed to the last time we played Atlanta, and mostly because they hunted the mismatch, and Bridges was like, "Oh, this is barbecue chicken, and I'm going to eat." And then, everything else fed off of that, because once he's hot, all of a sudden Brunson gets better looks. And that's the other thing. Brunson can kind of put to bed that the Dyson Daniels is the JB stopper. I mean, he cooked him like till he was well done out there.
That's my point, Geoff. Let's stick with the bench. Now you're stealing in my point. I will add to I agree with you. Even though it might have been out of necessity tonight, I hope Thibodeau saw something that would lead him to believe that, maybe, sometimes as a coach, you stumble onto something. So maybe he stumbled onto something that he's going to continue. Bridges played 27 minutes. He had 26 points. Shout out to Jarrell for pointing that out in the chat, on the show, Tony's show. And, did that, help him with the stellar defense I thought he played on Trae Young? Did that help him score 26 points in 27 minutes because he was fresher? Maybe not, but maybe it did, So, hopefully Thibodeau stumbled onto something that can help us the rest of the way. And kudos to Cam Payne. There was a little stretch there where I thought he wasn't aggressive for, a few games. Then his minutes went down, and he would play in the first, maybe not play in the second, wasn't really playing a lot of minutes. And over the past, 3, 4, 5 games, he's just been lights out, playing with a lot of energy, playing with a lot of confidence too. Some of them shots, he like, I don't care if I'm on the floor with Towns. If I feel it, I'm just going to come down and pull up, and they respect him too, because you don't see, nobody is soaking and like, yo, what are you doing putting up those shots? So he's been giving us a really big boost and energizing the team and energizing the Garden as well, which I think in turn energizes the team. So shout out to him for what he's doing. We might as well continue with the bench. I mean, I was going to talk about the bench later in the show. Well, we're here now, so we can continue to talk about it. And Precious Achiuwa, since he's been back, what have you seen from him? And do you like what you see or not?
I'll tell you one play I did like. They had that one cut where he made to the basket and he flushed it. I think it was in the second half that he made a good strong cut to the basket and powered it home. And that's what I want to see from him. Like, to me, if he can just make those, short ones and those easy ones finish around the rim, that's my biggest criticism of him. I like his switchability. I thought he did a good job defensively. I mean, you can really, I don't love him on ones, but for a second or two until you can rotate or whatever, you can even have him out at the top, and he's gonna, it's not gonna be blue by you for sure in most cases. And so I've actually been happier with the job that he's done in the last couple of games. I think he kind of had a stretch there where I was not really pleased with how he was playing, and I don't know if that's because he wasn't in game shape yet, or maybe it's just one of those things where he needs to get more minutes, because it seems like when he soaks up 25-30 minutes, he plays a lot better than if he gets 12 or 13. But I don't know.
Yeah, Tony, what have you seen from Precious since tonight and since he's been back?
Yeah, I agree with Geoff. I think it's been proven even with last year. Once the minutes increase, the performance increase, the comfortability increases. I like what I've seen from him. He started off rough, and again, to your credit, the only issue is the missed layups. You know what I mean? The efficiency at the rim. But I think honestly, it's an easy fix because he has enough athleticism to try to dunk every time, and that's what he should do. You know what I mean? Somebody needs to get that part in his head. The aggression, you know what I mean? You'll get more foul calls, number one. You know what I mean? You raise your percentage of finishing. You might lower your percentages of offensive rebounding and that quick second look, but I think I'd rather take that risk reward. But yeah, he's been great. I think he's going to continue to get better as well.
Yeah.
As long as he's here, I think he will thrive in this system with Tibbs.
Yeah. There are some games where you could really see if he could be consistent, like just how much that would elevate our bench. Right? There's some games you see him rip a rebound, bring it over half court. You see he'll get the pass in the key and he'll make yet another interior pass. I think that was in the Philly game, a critical interior pass to OG, for two, and he'll come out of nowhere and block a shot. And you're like, wow, if this guy can be consistent, it would really increase our bench. And I hear you, Tone, and I hear you, Geoff. He plays better with more minutes, but he may not have that luxury. Like, we may need him to be just as effective in 15 to 20 minutes as he is when he gets 30.
Well, here's what I'll say about that. I don't think he needs 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The same way Deuce, you know what I mean? I think he should be around 25. You know what I mean? 2025. I think Precious should be around 2025. I think all of them, you know what I mean? The three main guys, Cam as well, should all be anywhere from 20 to 25 on any given night. You know what I mean? When I was saying that range
Right.
of, you know what I mean, not necessarily going over this, not necessarily getting under this.
Right.
I think that could really work, and that makes you comfortable in what you're getting night in, night out. So this is my time to perform. You know what I mean? Like, not saying your mindset is different, but you're not worried about a mistake. I have recovery time. I have time to make up for something that I might have messed up on, or get a game winning steal, block, or what. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Though I don't think Precious though is somebody who's getting pulled for mistakes though.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I was just using an
In general,
example.
I would say though, in order for Cam to get 20 minutes, he would have to be playing the 1 and the 2. He would have to be playing behind and with Brunson, because if
We
he's
saw it
getting
tonight, though.
25 just playing behind Brunson,
We saw it tonight.
yeah. So that would have to continue. Yeah. If in order for him to to get those minutes. The thing about it is, for Bridges minutes to come down, that means we have to go with a 3 guard lineup. So, as far as we would be undersized.
Mhm.
But that's fine. I'm not saying that we can't be successful, but we would have to, what is our rebounding like? Is the defense enough to, you know, to to overcome that? Are we getting taken advantage of, or not? But yeah, I would like to get to the point where we have a 4 bench lineup that Tibbs feels comfortable with, and he's running one starter with that unit and it's consistent. Like, to just get to the point where we know this is our second unit, we're running Bridges with that unit, or we're running OG with that unit, or whoever we're running.
I mean,
Maybe it's Towns we're running with that unit.
honestly, I wouldn't even solidify it with one person, because if you're not doing, if you're mixing it up, that's also giving you more lineups to experiment with, or like you could have a better all defensive lineup. You know what I mean? A all offensive lineup. You could have a better mixture. So I wouldn't necessarily, and we have versatile enough guys
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to just be OG with that second, or it doesn't have to just be Mikal with that second unit. It could be OG at times. It could be Towns at times. You get bigger. You know what I mean? So I think we versatile enough to mix it up.
They would definitely have that ability to do that. I'm wondering, though, it would be best for them to at least be set first before you start, because if you start mixing different lineups, sometimes it's Cat, sometimes it's I don't know if we have that team, like high level teams, and maybe this is a high level team in terms of the bench. You can do that. Everybody knows how to play. Doesn't matter who you put together, you're going to get the same outcomes. If that's where we are, that would be great. If not, you might have to go with one person for now. Let that team get those reps, get that chemistry down, and then switch it if you need to. But that's a fair point. Either one could work. Yeah, either one could work. Anything else about the bench that we didn't?
I'm a bigger fan of Karl Anthony Towns with the bench than I am Jalen Brunson with the bench. Like, I feel like that stagger kind of works, where Brunson kind of plays the bulk of the minutes, and then when he goes to rest in the second quarter and Cat gets to play with that second unit, I kind of feel like that's a good mix of players, and it gives Towns an opportunity to just kind of get the ball and at the top and just wreck second units who don't have people in there to cover him, so they either have to match that substitution or get cooked. And so I so far this year, I've liked that sub better than Brunson playing with the backups.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I do like Brunson with next to Deuce and next to Cam. I think both of those guys next to Brunson have played well. It might be like OG and Towns on the floor with them, but I think I like, I don't know, something about those two small guards.
The 3-guard lineup.
Well, not all three of them, but like Brunson next to Cam. I like when they share the floor. They play well, and obviously Deuce next to Brunson as well.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I have a preference yet. I think either one. Yeah, I don't know if I have a preference yet. Other than it would be great if we can, like I said, put 4 of them out there at the same time, with a starter. Anyway, getting back to the game, what stood out for me is Brunson's play against Dyson Daniels. How he figured out how to get the ball up the court. He didn't seem as labored this time, turning, going east-west, till, turning like 10 times before he gets over half court. Like, it seemed to be easier today, him getting over half court. He frustrated Dyson Daniels. That doesn't happen often. Got into his head. He got a technical. That's Brunson. He probably, I was saying on Tony's show, he probably whipped out the tapes, was looking at film in terms of, what's the best way for me to, attack this, and beat this. And Dyson Daniels is one of, if not the best perimeter defender in the game. I've seen him. I watched the Boston Atlanta game in totality, and he was good there too. And I've seen him play other wings and guards a few times. He's just phenomenal. And I thought Brunson was phenomenal today. And that just gives me, not that I need it, but just more confidence in this guy that he is going to figure it out. You may have him for a quarter, you may have him for a half, you may have him for a few games, but eventually he's going to figure it out. So that stood out to me today, just his play against Dyson Daniels. Anybody want to add to that? No.
I mean, I agree. He figured it out. He needed to. You got to give Dyson Daniels all the credit in the world of where he is, as a player throughout the league. It's not just Brunson. This is his reputation now. This is who he is, and he's living up to it. And yeah, Brunson, I agree, Queen. He watched how he was being defended, what was being effective, and he countered. And so that's what he does.
Yeah, for sure.
But equally, I think what was really cool is, Brunson had 36 or whatever he wound up with, but we also had 30-something assists as a team. So it wasn't like Brunson took on the challenge and just was a black hole and the ball stopped with him, and it just became like the Brunson versus Daniels, mini game, if you will, or whatever. But a lot of what he did came within the framework of the offense. And he when Bridges had it cooking, he was like, okay, we need to make sure we get him his touches. And then when the Knicks needed a bucket at various times down the stretch, he was solid. But free throw shooting was a bit of a head scratcher today. What, he missed 3 or 4?
3 out of 5.
Yeah.
He's an 82% shooter. You don't see that very much.
I mean, he's been not knocking them down. It feels like for a stretch now, where he's been missing 2 in a row in games. You know what I mean? Missing 3 for the game. So his percentage is still what it is, which is great. But I don't know. It just feel like It feel like he'd be missing a lot of free throws this year.
Yeah. For sure. All right. So we talked about the bench. We talked about the bench. We talked about Bridges. We talked about Brunson and Dyson. Anything else that stood out before we get into the week?
Just the last thing on Brunson, 12 of 18. So it's not that he just figured them out. You could really say he dominated the game tonight. You know what I mean? And that will get you frustrated when your guys miss 4 shots all night. I'm not even sure if all 4 Dyson was on them. You know what I mean? So it might have been an even better percentage against Dyson. Yeah, that'll frustrate you.
Yeah.
And Dyson picked up early fouls too, so maybe he wasn't able to be as aggressive as he had in previous. That makes a difference too. He ended up fouling out of the game, and Jalen let him know about it, I think, with the 6 up there. I like that. I'm sorry.
I do too. I can't
that
lie.
little quiet troll that's so Jalen,
Yeah, definitely, for sure. All right. The Knicks defense against, we talked about this a little bit earlier. The defense against Atlanta was pretty good tonight. It was led by our bench, but I thought our starters also picked it up. Everyone was aggressive, and it's not just one person being aggressive, and then when they get past that person, nobody else is there. Though that happened a few times, but nobody is there to help, and so it's a fruitless effort, right? You see OG out there doing what he's doing, Bridges out there doing what they're doing, but if they slip up or if they get screened off, like nobody is there. So I felt like the helper was there tonight. I thought the Knicks played the 3-pointers, 3-point shots really good, like really hustled to get out there on the perimeter. And I've seen this before. I've seen this before for the Knicks where they have good defensive games, good defensive quarters. Why do you think it hasn't been sustainable? Tony, we'll start with you and then Geoff. Oh, first, well, yeah, why do you think it hasn't been sustainable?
I think it hasn't been a consistent effort, to be honest, because they've shown the capability. You know what I mean? Especially, we lose a game. We always bounce back. Then we hit this rough patch. You know what I mean? Things are looking a little bleak. Now we bouncing back. So it's like I don't think they've reached the level of such a good team to where they have that lack of respect for the regular season. You know what I mean? And they just waiting for the playoffs. I don't think it's that. I think it's the opposite side of them still building towards that night in, night out. This is what it takes. This is what we gotta do. No plays off. You know what I mean? Like they're still building that as a team. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they had a head start with the chemistry and all that and the culture with Tibbs, but now new guys are introduced. You know what I mean? It's not a complete start over, but you know what I mean. You still got it's a step back from the habits of every day of being under this coach for a year, 2 years, whatever the case may be. So I just think it. I'm sure he's telling them the same exact things he tells us every day in the post game. You know what I mean? Like he probably says those words 100 times a day. You know what I mean? Of what it takes and what you gotta do. It's just about consistency, and we'll get there. I believe.
Yeah, I hope you're right because if we can, it changes a lot for us. As far as our ceiling is concerned. Geoff, why hasn't it been sustainable? Or yeah,
Well, tonight I really felt like there was a lot more physicality on the part of the Knicks. I mean, if you looked at, I mean, Clyde said it during the broadcast, the Hawks missed a lot of shots around the rim tonight, like a lot of layups but they were contested. Like the Knicks were doing a good job rotating, recovering, and being physical with them and not just like Matador D where they just Olay to the easy. I mean, they were getting good looks, but they were, we were making them earn everything that they got. I still feel like the 3-point shooting, especially in the first half, like Trae Young couldn't, I think he had like 5 of his first 6 or something like that. And so, that may just be the modern NBA though. I mean, you get these teams that they just shoot the ball so well. I think in some respects you kind of have to choose your poison, and that's the thing about taking poison. It's not good either way you ingest it, right? So,
right.
But part of this year's Knicks problem defensively is that we've been taking both vials of poison. Like we're not even limiting it to one. We're just chugging down both of them. And so I don't think we necessarily solved anything defensively tonight. I think that from a variance standpoint, they missed a lot of shots at the rim, and we'll take it. But I don't know that we have like the formula for, okay, we're good now on defense.
No, I agree with that. But the energy was on a different level today. I thought the Knicks got out to contest the perimeter shots a little better today. And yeah, sure, they missed at the rim, but that tends to happen when you're very physical, right? So and I've seen this from the Knicks before. So it's not like the Knicks have never played one game, one quarter of good defense. They have. It just hasn't been sustainable. And I hear you, Tony, that it just has to come together as a team. They have to learn how to play 48 minutes. I just don't think they've bought in on the defensive end. I can't hear you.
the flip side of my original comment is, I mean, I know they took this game personal. So unfortunately, but my original statement was it comes down to effort. They're
Right.
capable.
Right.
You know what I mean? The fact that they took this game personal made them exude the effort. You know what I mean? Like you can
Right.
see the difference.
Right.
And that, to me, that's what it stands for. I hope you're wrong. I hope it's not that they haven't bought in. Collectively, I can't see that being true. Um
But I think
now here's
the same thing you're saying, though. I mean,
here
to me, it's go ahead.
no, I just want to say it, true or not, maybe there's things missing. Maybe Mitchell Robinson is needed. Like maybe that part of the the finishing touch on the defense, it is that rim protector. I don't know, but
I agree with that. I mean, listen, I'm not saying Mitchell Robinson can't help. I'm trying to account for the inconsistency in the defensive effort of those who are here right now. If we've never seen it, then I could kind of understand pointing to personnel.
mhm,
But when you see it for some
mhm.
games and not for others, or you see it for some quarters and not from others, I'm just trying to kind of pick you guys' brains. What do you think? Um, what do you think that is? Or is it possible that it takes we have so many holes on defense, it takes so much effort to put together good defensive performance that you just can't expect that every night. You know what I mean?
The messed up part is I don't think we have many holes. I do think our main hole pause is Brunson has been exposed more this year
Almost.
than normal.
Mhm.
So I think like tonight, maybe another small guard, us being able to expose their weakness, them not really being able to expose ours tonight. You know what I mean? I think that has a huge thing to do with it. You know what I mean? As much as I love Brunson, he's the weak link defensively. If you want to talk about like night in, he's the one that the rest of the rotation kind of has to make up for night in and night out. Um, but I still stand on. I think it's an effort thing, and you know that's they're gonna have to bring that effort. I think we're so good offensively that we haven't stood on the defensive philosophy yet. You know what I mean?
But Tony, that's what I mean when I say they haven't bought in. Like they could talk lip service, our defense has to be better. But when you buy in, you understand it's 48 minutes. Like, yeah, we have a good offense, but we're not going anywhere just playing offense. And you
Unfor-
buy in, you put in the 48 minutes, you put in that effort, unless, like I said earlier, it's too much to overcome. With this particular starting with Towns and Brunson, we can do it every once in a while, but to expect us to do this game
Night in
in
and
and
night
game
out.
out, I don't know if we can do it. Maybe that's part of it. They definitely was motivated tonight, and you saw the difference. Geoff, you were going to say something?
I was wondering, is it a function maybe of that second unit getting a little bit more burn and doing a good job, and then you have more energy in the fourth quarter to play defense, as opposed to everybody's playing 40 minutes and you're doing all this and you only get 8 minutes rest, and
If
there's
that,
only a certain reservoir of energy. I don't care who you are. Like
right.
you might can do it for a game or two, but if you're talking about what are we in game 44 or something like that, you're talking about doing that on a night in night out basis when
Fair,
your
fair.
minutes load is that high. Maybe that has something, and maybe I'm making excuses, but
Nah, that's collective.
That's
I
fair.
agree.
That's fair. That's fair. I will say this though about Brunson's defense. To me, I think Brunson is an average defender. I don't think he's a below average defender. Yeah, there are some plays like if somebody is coming downhill and Brunson is your only guy back, it's a wrap. But when you watch him play one-on-one defense, I've seen him like this is just multiple times stop the drive with his lateral movement. It either caused the guy to pick the offensive player, to either pick up the dribble or pass it out. I've seen that time and time again. He fights over screens. He gets skinny, over screens. I'm not saying he's a great defensive player. I just think he's better than we give him credit.
I agree with you that he's average 100%. He's average. He's not below average.
He's not below.
I think what happens though, or what I've noticed, especially this year in particular, is him being targeted more than ever, which then heightens his limitations defensively. You know what I mean? Within the flow of the game, I think Brunson is he's an adequate defender.
Right.
You know what I mean? Within the flow of the game. But when the opposing team is targeting and running a play or running the switch and seeking you out, which I've seen that this year more than ever before, and that's why I'm pointing that out as, it's kind of been showing as a detriment more than ever before. And I don't think it's I shouldn't have said detriment. I think that's too strong a word. Because I don't think it's detrimental, but I think it's been noticeable more than ever before.
Yeah.
I think also what you have is the fact that he's 6'1", and what do you have in the league? You have all these 6'7" players who can shoot the bottom out of the ball, and they have a multitude of them. So there's only so much you can do when you're giving up 6 inches of height, and sometimes they're not even putting the ball on the deck; they're just raising up and being able to shoot over him. And what are you going to do? I mean, he can't. He's not Inspector Gadget. He can't just extend his arm out into space forever. And he doesn't have a big wingspan or anything like Deuce does either. And that's a problem for Deuce, but Deuce is able to mitigate it better than he is, just because he does have the wingspan of a player who's much taller.
Right.
And so, those limitations are always going to be there. But I also think that Karl-Anthony Towns is about an average defender. I mean, he had that great possession against Trae Young tonight, which was a joy, especially to listen to Clyde describe it was incredible. But
who was guarding him on that play? Because it started there. The block that Karl-Anthony Towns got.
He had him. I don't know how it started, but he got switched onto him. He was on him in that corner for a long time.
Oh, you talking about the block layup? Or
no, I'm talking about the 3-pointer that he ended up catching it, getting the turnover.
Okay, no, I know what you're talking about. The
shaking,
one,
no bacon,
the controversial no call.
Yeah, but I thought he did a good job
on that play. The Atlanta Hawks,
but again, his foot speed's not great, so he can't. I think both of them. It's not an effort issue. I don't think it's that they just don't try defensively. I think that they do, and I think they're average defenders. And when 2 of your defenders are average and 2 of your allegedly elite defenders are not performing at an elite level, shots fired, I guess. But I think that matters. I think that makes a big difference. And when we struggled in this game, Josh Hart was scatterbrained, absent-minded for a good portion. Like when Atlanta made their run, it was like, Josh, what are you doing, bro? Like a lot of it was on him. So,
that's also his surroundings. You know what I mean? Because he played well before that, and then once it became like the full starting unit again, it was like, I noticed that too.
Yeah, I think Towns rim protection is something to be desired. We already know that. But there were a few of these Atlanta possessions, like when went coast to coast. And I just felt like Towns came. He had enough time to take a charge. He had enough time to try to block the shot. He had
was after the Hart deflection into the backcourt. That one? Yeah, I would have been so heated. I think Clyde said it. He's like, I exude all that energy, knock the ball half court. He got to run down and save it. and comes coast to coast, and
Yeah,
not nobody stepped in his way, no
yeah.
deterrent.
Yeah. Like it's one thing if you're not a rim protector, but you where you're supposed to be and they score over you. That's something different. There's been a few possessions where I think Towns could have made an effort, whether they scored or not, whether you picked up a foul trying to block that shot or not. I just feel like sometimes he'll just see it and he'll be like, I don't want no parts of this. For whatever reason. Maybe he doesn't want to pick up another foul. I'm not sure what it is, but I do think there are some possessions, maybe at least one a game, where he could show a little more, and like literally show on the play. Um, yeah. Listen, you're not a good rim protector, fine, but be good at the other things. And I think he's actually, we say his lateral quickness is not good. He's probably better in space than he is as a rim protector.
I agree.
I've seen him in space recently against another team. So, I mean, it was just a possession, but I was just surprised at how he was able to move his feet on that, on that possession. So, and he did it okay with Minnesota too. Like they had him at the 4. So he was playing in space a lot there as well. I want to talk about anything else about the defense. Are we still holding our hope? Let's not talk about reinforcements with Mitch. This, from what we've seen so far, and we're a little over half in the season, maybe you might want to rethink what you said before. What's the Knicks defensive ceiling, Geoff, in your mind?
That's a tough question. I don't know, probably about 10 to 12 right now, somewhere in that neighborhood.
A lot. I said without Mitch.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
You said their ceiling, right?
Right. Yeah, their ceiling. What do you think their ceiling
10
could
through
be?
12. Yeah, I think that's about their ceiling.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I was at 10. I was at 10 before. I'm modifying, and I'm thinking 12 might be our best. You know what I mean? And I'm looking like 12 to 14. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I had to modify my earlier take in the year.
Yeah. Again, this is without Mitch. Things can change, when Mitch comes back. I think they have if they buy in. To me, it's a buy-in thing. And I get their limitations. I get Brunson's limitation. I get Towns' limitations. I get it. I still think if they bought in, they could probably get to 12. But I think I'm with Tone, 12 to 14. And I don't think that's good enough unless your offense, now it's a difference between your offense having the potential to be lights out, which the Knicks do, their offense has, and it actually being lights out. And with a 14th ranked defense going into the playoffs, no bad nights. No bad offensive nights. Your offense better be humming. 14 or worse, I should say. Your
You mess
offense
around,
better be running, humming.
you mess around and be 14th ranked defense, and you might be second worst in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might be the third worst defensive team in the playoffs coming in with the 14th. You know what I mean? For the year. So yeah. I mean, the good thing is I think matchups change things. Like styles make fights.
Right.
So you could be 14th ranked in the league, and then you may just have that team's number, or that may be when Tibbs is able to come up with a strategic plan for this team, as opposed to you know what I mean, making you look better than what you did throughout the year. So I think once you in there, things can change either way.
And the other thing, kind of similar sentiment to Cardiac Knicks. There's nothing to say that the Knicks can't raise their defensive level of play in the playoffs. Because I do think there's more potential on the Knicks than they're showing right now. So they could be the 14th ranked regular season have the 14th ranked regular season defense, for example, and go into the playoffs and have the eighth best defense in the playoffs, because I do think that potential is there. And Cardiac Nick said, I believe they are saving the lockdown D for the playoffs, especially on the perimeter with all the minutes the starters play. They can't play hard D all the time. And that was, to the point Geoff was making earlier. So I think one thing to be encouraged by is they have that potential, and and maybe the playoffs is something that unlocks it. Maybe I'd like to see it more consistently in the regular season, but
that potential also is where the frustration lies, though, too, right? Like, because you see glimpses of it, but you don't get to, it's just a glimmer or a mirage. It's not something you can hold in the palm of your hand. But I think if you look at the playoffs 2 years ago, I think the Knicks defensively weren't a top 5 defense in those years. But then when we played Cleveland and Miami, we were probably the second best defense rating wise in the NBA. So I think that there's definitely truth to what Tony was saying, that it can be matchup dependent too. And when you can game plan for one specific team, it's a lot different than when you're having, well, we're playing a team that does this on this night and this on that night, and during the regular season.
And the stakes are higher too. Like, Tony said it earlier, they knew Atlanta beat them twice. So they had an extra edge. They had extra motivation coming into this game. And you could see the physicality, the intensity that they came with. Well, that's built into the playoffs. You don't have to get up for the playoffs, that's built in. So that's going to be there. That pressure, so to speak, to perform and get every game is going to be there every night. So we may see a bump, in their defensive intensity. And a lot of it is intensity and effort, but a big part of it also is knowing the game plan defensively and sticking to the game plan defensively and executing the defensive game plan, right? You can have all the effort in the wrong places, and it doesn't work.
I think having a healthy Deuce, Cam, and Precious helps also. Like, if you have all 3 of those guys and you can plug them in, mix and match with our starters, I think you have a lot more combinations that have a plus defensive ability, as opposed to when you don't have them.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. And we talked about this early. Maybe we don't have a bench that can come in and outscore other benches, but maybe we have a bench that can come in and turn up that defensive, intensity, get us some steals, get us some deflections, some blocks, some key, rebounds, and just kind of hold the fort in a big way until our starters get back and they're rested. That would be huge for us. As well. Different benches do different things, all right. I want to talk about our offense. Tony and I had this conversation, I don't know, maybe a week or so ago, about, do we play a better brand of basketball? Another way to put it, does our offense flow better? Are we more successful when it runs through Towns? Or another way to put it, when Towns is more involved in the offense, or does it even matter? Geoff?
Oh, I think Towns he's the skeleton key. I think you saw without him, golly, that was tough to watch. The 99 points, that was just brutal, and so, I mean, even tonight, you kind of saw him early on, especially. It felt like he was kind of worried about his thumb on a shot, and you just saw him off, and we struggled during those periods when he was on the floor and he wasn't producing offensively. So to me, he creates so many headaches for a defense because he does draw two to the ball with his gravity, and his location on the floor, because he plays up at the top as a big man, that just opens up things in a way that very few teams in the league have that advantage, because not only is he a threat to shoot the ball well, but he also is so good with the drive game from up there that it's just a problem for anybody who's got to guard him. And that opens up the floor for everybody else, and especially Josh Hart. I think that combination is deadly, because with him playing almost 5 out, then you have Josh Hart getting into the middle and wreaking havoc, and having his best assist season of his career, and those sorts of things. So I think that he's definitely the catalyst, and I think he's Brunson is important too, but I think those two feed off of each other, and I just think that he takes our offense to an elite level.
Yeah. I mentioned it before. I feel like Brunson needs to be the closer. I think Karl Anthony Towns can play a better role than I think Randall played at his peak last year, pre-injury, that January stretch. I thought Brunson let Randall get his early and often, and I thought Brunson became the closer or the crunch minutes performer or clutch minute performer. I think that ultimately puts us at our best. And I think as much as Brunson can break down the defense and facilitate, and I think he needs to do that within the flow of the game, Karl Anthony Town has a height advantage, which gives him opportunities to make passes. Like he unlocks everybody. Brunson becomes an off-ball weapon. OG cutting, Mikal cutting, those become threats. With Karl Anthony Towns having the ball in his hands. Hart becomes a threat. I mean, he's always going to be the threat as a secondary rebounder or you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like I think he unlocks, like, skeleton key was a great word, because he unlocks everything for us. That's what a skeleton key does, right?
Yeah.
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 The perfect word.
Yeah.
He unlocks everything for us.
I don't know what the stats say. I don't know what the stats say. From the eye test, when we're throwing the ball to Towns and everyone is playing, and he's either shooting a three, he's driving, or he's passing, and we're cutting off of him. Maybe it's just an aesthetics thing, and maybe it just looks better. But statistically, there really isn't any difference whether he's driving the offense or Brunson is driving the offense. But it just seems a bit more fluid, and things just seem the other players just seem to get easier shots. It just seems more efficient. Just seems more efficient than when Brunson is doing most of the creating. And listen, nothing against Brunson. We got to keep in mind, like, people talk about how he pounds the ball. This is not a fast guy. Like, so he's able to get his by dribbling, herky jerky, catching people off guard with his footwork. That's what he does. It's hard to do that without any dribbles. You know what I mean?
And it's hard to do that when everybody else is taller than you. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you're 6'7",
Right.
6'8", you know what I mean? You literally can rise at any moment anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
And
100%.
shoot over. That's correct.
You mean? So
Yeah.
wherever, you know what I mean? It take one dribble, you can rise. Two dribble, like everything else is extra.
Right.
He's doing what he's doing because he has to. You know what I mean? He has to shift the defense.
And I also think that when you have a player that has the Brunson footwork and magic, there's a tendency to just kind of watch, you know what I mean? Let's see what he's gonna do, because you have faith and confidence that he's gonna, he's gonna do something amazing, because so often he does, when might be better off if we're moving and cutting and setting screens and doing other things. Whereas when Towns is on the floor with the ball, it's like, okay, let's move, let's cut, because he's not doing the same sorts of things. I think when you have a great player like that, sometimes it's easy to get ball watching, just, go do something really good.
And with Brunson, because most of his shots end in the paint, you're not going to get, if you're playing off of Brunson, it's basically spacing. If you're playing off of Towns, it's you can space as well. He can hit you on the 3-point line, but it's mostly cutting.
Exactly.
Right? It's just different.
It's more weapons. It's more weapons.
Right. Because Brunson also becomes a weapon for Cat. He could play, he could spaces, he could space as well. I don't know the stats whether we're more successful when we play through Cat or if we play, through Brunson. I just feel like it's the beginning of the season, it was more Cat. And you can't even tell this by shot attempts because he had 18 shot attempts today, about equal with Brunson. So you can't even go by shot attempt. You can't even go by shot attempt. Because I was like, yo, we got to feature Towns more often. He's not. Then I look at the box score. He had 18 shots. So it's not that. It's just, I felt like in the beginning of the season, we featured Towns more. We worked through him a bit more, and now we're working more through Brunson.
He's also this injury with the thumb, but he's also dealt with some injuries as the season went on. You know what I mean? So I also think that might be why. They have to shift some of that attention. Hey, you get it within the flow. But I agree, at our best, which I also don't know if we'll see that this year. Maybe we'll see that in the playoffs as a true weapon to utilize. But I don't think we're gonna see it as much as we could or maybe argue should this year. I think it becomes more of a weapon, hopefully in the playoffs, you know what I mean? But as the years next year and the follow, I think it will become more of a staple. And I still want Brunson with the ball when it's clutch time, when it's
Wouldn't you guys agree, just from watching, that Towns is kind of a guy that lets the game come to him? I mean, that's one of the things I've noticed. He's not like I haven't seen a whole lot of like first quarter eruptions from him like we got with Julius Randle. I think he just
a detriment.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not saying as a criticism. I'm just saying that he just kind of takes what the defense gives him, and I think it's one of the reasons why he shoots so well from three is he doesn't take a lot of bad 3-point attempts. Most of the attempts that he takes from out there are ones that he's catching the ball in rhythm, or he knows that this is a good shot. This is a shot so he has a really high IQ when it comes to getting to his spots and doing his thing. But if he's not in his spots and he's not in his rhythm, then he's not going to force it just because. And I think that sometimes that personality may be some of the reasons why, Jalen asserts himself more often, or we have that impression, because Towns just isn't that. And we saw that with Randle. Like Randle, especially in the first quarter, he just would hammer people. Like he'd have 16 points and boom, it was just like punch people in the mouth. And then fourth quarter time, it was all, you wanted the ball in Brunson's hands anyway, because Randle just doesn't have that reputation as much as a clutch player.
I know you wasn't criticizing, but to me, that is one of my criticisms.
Oh,
because I feel like that's why we get the 8 shot attempts, every 14 games or so. You know what I mean? And that hurts us. I also think, not putting it on Brunson, but it has to kind of be a philosophy. Feed him early. You know what I mean? You feed him early, is you know what I mean? You have less to worry about down the stretch.
Yeah. And then also it could depend on the matchups too. Like make your job easy, Brunson. Sometimes just come down the court, throw it right to Towns at the top of the key and spread to the corner and let him work. Because that would happen with Randall. Randall would work one side of the court, Brunson would be on the other, and if it swung to him, he would take the shot. And sometimes it looked like they were taking turns, in terms of who was, running the offense. Um, we can do a bit, more of that. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is, again, there's just more meat on the bone. There's just more meat that we're leaving on the bone. Like, Brunson can still do his thing, but you could work both. You can work both where you're giving the ball to Cat as well, and we're running the offense through him, and just picking your times, when it's best, to do that. I just bring it up because I haven't seen it in a while. And it could be, to Tony's point, he's been injured, and he can't really take on, that role right now. That could be it. It could have been that Brunson was having a hard time finding his place, when Towns was playing that way, and felt like, maybe he needed to assert himself for the betterment, of the team. I am not one who think Brunson is selfish. I think whatever decision he's making, I really believe it's in that he believes it's in the best interest of the team. That's his intent. But yeah, I just miss it. I just miss that. Playing through Towns a little more, and I just think it would help us if we mixed it up.
Here's the thing, Queen.
Mhm.
It's like you mentioned earlier. The shot attempts are fairly equal.
They
You know what I
are.
mean? So it's probably a 50 split when you're just talking about those two guys. And like we mentioned, like we talked about earlier, the style in which Brunson gets his and the style in which Cat gets his, optically, it looks like Brunson's getting more, but it's equal. So, but I agree. I think for the best of the team, where everybody can eat, you know what I mean? Because Cat getting the ball more also gets Mikal the ball more, also gets OG the ball more. You know what I mean? Also gets Brunson more open shots. You know what I mean? Easier shots. So I agree 100%.
Right.
And the good thing is, number one, Cat is already paid. You know what I mean? He's here long term. He's not looking to. A lot of times, people wanting to be the man and money coincide.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's not a lot of people who say, "I'm the man. I don't care how much I'm getting paid." You know what I mean? Because I know I'm the you know what I mean? And Brunson kind of fits that mold. And on the flip side, there's nothing really for Cat to compete about.
Right.
His spot is solidified. His contract is solidified. For him, the focus is really about winning. What's best for the team. So I think that so there's no internal competition between these
Right.
guys,
Yeah, no doubt.
which is great. We don't got to worry about that. It's really
Right.
just about figuring it out.
Right.
And hopefully Brunson, long term, he's not trying to make up the money he gave up per se,
Right.
and he's just trying to win first. But I believe he is.
Yeah. I will say this though, even though Towns could still have just as many shots as Brunson, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was we were running the offense through him, right?
I agree. The time of
Yeah.
possession is probably going to be half.
Well, I think that's going to be the case no matter what, because he's pretty
Quick.
quick. Yeah. But he got his 18 shots off of Brunson. And off of a Brunson centric offense, I should say. Um, but he can also, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is you can't tell by how many shots he took whether it was a town-centric offense or whether it was a Brunson-centric offense. You can't really tell by just um looking at the shots. And listen, I'm not complaining about um Brunson. I'm just wondering, what's best for the team. And again, this is just the eye test. I have not looked at um, you know,
But that's
any
what I'm
stats
saying.
or
It's
anything.
always gonna look like that with these two.
Yeah.
Like for it to look more balanced, at the end of the night, you're gonna look at the stat sheet and be like, oh, Towns took 27 shots. Like it didn't even feel like that. You know what I mean? It's gonna look more equal when Towns is taking more shots. I
I don't
really
think
believe
you
that
could
because
tell from the box score. I think you would have to watch the game to see, you know, how many times did Towns get an opportunity to initiate the offense? That's basically what I'm talking about. How many times was the ball in his hands for him to make um, decisions? I mean, I guess you could look at touches, but that still doesn't, you know, you kind of have to watch the game to see. And lately it's been a Brunson centric offense. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying
no, it definitely has. And Towns
um
been out too. So
and yeah, so there
that, you
could
know what I mean,
be
that
a lot
added
of reasons for it.
that that added to it.
Right, right,
Oh,
right.
some OKC moments added to it.
Yeah,
We was playing so well that first game. Brunson hijacked the offense.
right. Yeah, for sure. Anything else about anything we discussed today before we get into the two games we have this week? All right. So we have three games this week. Atlanta tonight, which was a win. We play Brooklyn. We're at Brooklyn tomorrow. And then we're off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before we play Sacramento at home. So this could be a 3-0 week. This could be a 3-0 week, family. Um,
I ain't saying it.
take you can't take anything for granted though. I mean, I just feel with this Knicks team, you can't you think you know them and you think you can just look at a game. Obviously, anybody can win on any given night. That's what I'm talking about. But for the most part, you think you know this Knicks team and you can look at it and be like, this is a definite win. I don't know. I don't know with this team, you know. Um, but any thoughts on playing Brooklyn, who seems to be, there's rumors they already traded Dennis Schroeder, they traded Dorian Finney-Smith, rumors that Cam Johnson is available. Like setting they're really resetting the roster. And then we have Sacramento on Saturday, who has been playing fairly well since they fired Mike Brown. So that's not going to be a gimme as well. I believe Sabonis is healthy. He's a load. He's a load.
Yeah, and we don't got his daddy no more.
Right, right, right. So yeah, just thoughts on the two upcoming games against Brooklyn and Sacramento.
Go ahead, Tom.
We should be victorious. We should. I feel better. A lot of times in the past, I say 4-0, 3-0, whatever. I'm just trying to be super optimistic. Like this one feels like it really should be. You know, this should be a point in the season where maybe we can prove. I feel like tonight was a statement win, or today was a statement win. I feel like now can we go on another stretch and make a statement. The talk has been it's the toughest remaining schedule. I'll put Atlanta in there. The
Mhm.
next two teams shouldn't be as tough as Atlanta, nor as the games of after them. You know what I mean? So if this is the toughest stretch, this is a brief lull in that stretch. So we should be able to take advantage. Obviously the Kings are the tougher matchup. They've been on a better stretch, playing better basketball.
9-2 over their last 11.
Turning this season around. I think they went from bottom of the league to now in the playoffs, right? Or are they like eighth?
They're in the play-in at
Play-in, okay. But I know they jumped
up
the standings. So yeah, it won't be anything easy, but I think we got the advantage. Fox ain't no slouch, but I give Cat the advantage over Sabonis. Hopefully the thumb gets better and he could get back to leading the league in rebounds. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna need to do that against Sabonis. It'll test that toughness that I think he showed all year. You know what I mean? In Sabonis. But he hasn't won against the Knicks in a while. He might feel like this is his advantage.
Yeah. They're 22-20. They're 8th in the Western Conference. Yeah. They're 9-1 over their last 10 and 9-2 since Mike Brown was fired. And they've had quality wins over the Boston Celtics, Memphis Grizzlies, Houston Rockets, and Dallas Mavericks in that time. Though Dallas is slipping of late with injuries to Luka Doncic and Kyrie has been in and out of the lineup. So I think they're going to be a challenge. I don't think Sabonis can guard, Towns at the 3-point line or the foot speed to guard him as far as drives is concerned. But on the flip side of that, Sabonis is a load, in terms of bodying you. And though I will say that Towns, post defense is solid.
And this would be a time where if he don't reach and he actually uses length, I think one of the things he's a tough guy, Sabonis, but he's not a true 7-footer, right?
Right.
And a lot of times he's just around that size against his opponents where he uses that height advantage. And or at least I'm used to Randall guarding him, right? So he doesn't have that same advantage that he had against Randall as far as the size, the height. And I think Randall always did a good job. He's not a slouch, but I got to give Cat the edge. You know what I mean?
All right, we shall see. Brooklyn, on the other hand, 14-29. They are 12th in the Eastern Conference. They're 2-8 over their last 10, and they've lost 3 straight. So that means they're dangerous.
Look, they may be playing capture the flag, but
they're
gonna if there's one game in the next 10 that they want to win, this is the one, and you're gonna get some ridiculous Kobe White, 9 of 11 from 3, Isaiah Joe performance from somebody. Mm-hmm. Second night of a back-to-back always scares me to death. I don't know why in the modern NBA you should ever have to play back-to-back games. They don't do it in the playoffs. The scheduling could eliminate that pretty easily. But and I think there's going to be a letdown because I think that we had such a good win today. We had, they'll be feeling good about themselves, and you can't take that team lightly. And we've had some hiccups with that this year when we haven't in the past with Thibodeau's team. So this will be an interesting test for this group. But I'll say this: if and it's a big if to me, if we get the Brooklyn game, I think we're in good shape for the Kings game, just for the simple fact that we're going to be able to rest our guys for like 3 days. And I think that as the minutes load has it's almost like a mini all-star break, a chance to get recharged, not having to travel anywhere. And so I think if you give them that extra time to heal up, whether it be for his thumb or, whatever ails them, kind of get right, get well. So I think that if we can get the Brooklyn game, I think that we have a decent shot against the Kings, because I think us on more rest is dangerous, because I just think we're a really good team when we, in other words, that he's not going to be worried about playing the guys as many minutes because they've had 3 days off.
Yeah.
Hold on. I changed my mind. I'm saying it. We're going 3-0. Listen, if we lose the Brooklyn game, we're gonna win the Kings game anyway because we bounce back. You know what I mean? And I don't think we're doing a letdown. So we going 3-0. We beating Brooklyn tomorrow, and then we beating the Kings.
Yeah.
Tony is back. I love it. That's what I want to hear. That's what we need from you, Tony. That's the energy and vibes we need.
Yeah. But I think, this also still speaks to, we talked about how their defense is inconsistent, and there's more promise there. I think their mental approach to the game, their mental toughness, there's more promise there as well. I don't think they're not jugular. They're not a team that goes at the jugular just yet. They're not a team that's like, who we playing? Brooklyn? We're gonna set the pace. This game is gonna be over by halftime. They're just not there. Yeah, and I think that'll continue to grow as the season goes on.
It's like you saying it when you say they're not bought in. I think they believe it. You know what I mean? Like I think they want to go for the jugular. You know what I mean? I just think they have, like you said, mentally, they don't realize it takes every possession. It takes every game. It takes 48 minutes. Like they'll get there though.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this team. Sometimes I've said this many times. Sometimes you got to go through the fire, and it just kind of gels you as a team and gels you as a unit. Um, you know, somebody asked who we're playing tomorrow. We play Brooklyn tomorrow in Brooklyn. Then our next game is not until Saturday, where we play the Sacramento Kings at home. Yeah. If we was having this show this morning, we would have been asking, are the Knicks gonna win against a what is the week gonna be?
Hey, I ain't
I
gonna
think I
lie.
would have probably said 2-1.
I would have said 2-1 too. I was nervous about this game. This was a quality win. I'm calling it a statement game, statement win because Atlanta they've been on the rise. They've had our number. They're confident in who they've defeated in the East at the very least, the top 3 teams. And yeah, they had all the motivation to continue the good stretch. And
they expected to win too. They came in there like that with expectations that they were going to beat us. And
absolutely,
I thought we limited Jalen Johnson for the first time this year. I didn't really feel like he had a big game at all. Trae Young was horrific. I mean, he had more turnovers than field goals made, which is awesome. Good job, Trae. Keep up the good work. But roll them dice, baby. I do not I'm a peaceful person. I'm a preacher. I'm a minister, but I would punch that dude in his face if I saw him.
You know why I respect him? Because I love the rivalry. I love it brings so much nostalgia back for me. And for us to have a public enemy number one, and I'll be honest, I'm one of the people that do feel like Knicks fans started it. I don't care. You know what I mean? The vulgar language, I'm against that part because kids be at the games and things of that nature. But the energy, I love it. Boo him every time. And I respect him for stepping up and playing through that. Because everybody's not built for that. Like people can have their MSG moments in general. Like that happens night in and night out. There's always going to be an opponent that has their best game against us. But when you can take the energy and feed off of it, you got to respect that.
Yeah. He is 7-15 against the Knicks, though. So I don't know how much of a rivalry it really is. Like he's had a couple moments, and I guess with the playoffs that year,
that's all that matters.
Yeah,
in my eyes, when it comes to rivalries, in my mind, to be honest, when it comes to rivalries, like if I was a Hawks fan, I would be talking my shit because it matters in the playoffs, and that's where they beat us. You know what I mean? So until we beat them, they could say it's not a rivalry. But I'm looking at it like we owe y'all one. We need our get
Team,
back.
though. Like, I don't know if there's anybody left from that team other than Mitch, right?
True, but it don't matter about the team as long as they got Trae Young. That energy is that energy,
Yeah.
like in New York. So I respect that.
Yeah.
That part.
Hey, I can respect him and still hate him, and that's where I'm at. Like I
don't
respect him for sure, but you know, I was real glad to see him like melt down in the second half of this game. That was like that's tasty pudding right there. I mean, I have diabetes, but let my blood sugar go up.
You think I like seeing him roll dice on the garden
No
floor?
way.
Absolutely not. But like Brunson said, if you
Beat
don't like it,
beat him.
beat him.
And we did.
All right, let me just give a quick shout out to the chat before I get last words. We out of here. You guys go check out Ron and John on Still Nick fans. After this, Knicks 100 a GM. Appreciate you, always active in the chat. LV Shore, I like that. Appreciate you, old head on deals N1K, NYK. I appreciate you. Keith Turner in the house. Who else? David L. Bayer. He's not getting these notifications, but I'm glad you're finding us no matter what. Kerry Cox, I appreciate you as well. Still Nick fans. Ron was in the house earlier. Appreciate you. Zyra, Bella B, Noelis. I don't know if I got that right, but I appreciate you dropping by. NYK Bro 99. I might not get to Angel Torres was in the building early. David G, Kareem Grant, Wonder Woman in the building early. I appreciate all of you. Walter Blackman. And if I miss someone, my apologies. Geoff, Tony, any last words?
When you leave here, check out Still Knicks fans. And when you're done with them, double back, replay gang, Knicks and Bruises. Yeah, keep it an MBK fan thing. We had great shows tonight.
Definitely. Shout out to Sim for the platform. I'll be on Thursday, 9 p.m. Me, Geoff, Ajay, Jarrell, the Just Nick and It weekly show. So be sure to check us out on Dope Soul Sports Talk. And, shout out to Lady&TheChef who wasn't here tonight from Two Knicks Chicks. They go on Thursdays as well at 7 p.m., if I'm not mistaken. And then also Sundays at 11 a.m. So check out Two Knicks Chicks as well. All right. Anything else, Geoff?
That's it. Have a great night, guys.
All right. Until next time.
One last thing. I'm sorry. I might do something post game tomorrow if Sim's not available, because I think he may be on the road.
Right.
So look out for that if so. And if I could get somebody to jump in with Losers Lounge with me, I might pull a double feature on MBK on that front as well. So
yeah, you got to get like a winning circle too. You got to get like something when we win. Like, what is the other team saying when we win? Oh, they cheated. The officials, well, no, that's the losers. That's when we win. Like when we lose. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, but when we lose, it's just a regular post game because that's just everybody griping because we lost.
Exactly. Right? I be thinking about it sometimes, implementing it, maybe a segment where I do highlight a few comments. But because he does the post game, I ain't trying to be. And if we do a post game Losers Lounge, I ain't trying to be up doing a third show after the game. So
yeah.
But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you, family. Appreciate the replay game.